Welcome to the School Facilities and Operations Podcast. I am Burke Jones, and every week we get on here and talk K-12 facility operations, whether that's with another director of operations or facilities at a school district. Or sometimes we have trade partners on here where we really pick their brain about what we need to know as facilities people to do our job better and more effectively in maintaining our buildings or bidding projects, all of that kind of thing. And so today, I have the honor to speak with Jim Rich. He is the Director of Operations at Park Hill School District, which I think is a suburb of Kansas City, Missouri area.
Right.
So welcome, Jim.
Thanks, Bert. I'm glad to be here. Yes, as you said, Park Hill School District, and if you're familiar with Kansas City area at all, we actually our northern boundary goes through the middle of KCI Airport. So that's
Oh, okay.
where we are located in the Kansas City area, and Platte County is a county that we're in, southern part of that county. So
So you're kind of
we,
northeast Kansas City.
I'm sorry,
Are you kind of northeast Kansas City area?
northwest, right up against the river. The Missouri
Okay.
River is our boundary on the west. So for
Okay.
most of it anyway. But, yep.
Sounds good. Well, tell us a little bit about maybe your career path to this point, and then I always ask everybody to share something about yourself that we can't read about when we're reading about all the business accomplishments on LinkedIn.
Yeah, my path in this position is a little different than most. At least that's what I understand. I don't have a background in necessarily in construction and maintenance and facility maintenance and that kind of thing. Um, I many years ago, I was a business manager for UPS. Left there and went to the school bus business, and I was a manager for several different locations for a private school bus contractor.
Okay.
And when I was doing that, actually Park Hill School District was one of my customers. And my kids grew up in Park Hill. We've lived here all my adult life pretty much. So been in this district for a long time. But while I was in the bus business, I was asked by one of the customers, not Park Hill, to help design a transportation facility
Okay.
for that district. It was on the Kansas side, actually. So I did that. Right after that, I had made a lot of contacts with Park Hill, and it just so happened that myself and the HR director at the time were kind of thinking the same direction, that I might be a good fit for this role when my predecessor retired. And we called each other on the phone that day. It was kind of, I think it was a cool story that I called him, didn't hear from him all day. And then he called me, and he didn't even know that I called in the morning. So we were both thinking the same thing. Not that it was easy to get the job. Still had to do 3 different panel interviews and all that. That was pretty stressful. But anyway, so most of my background is in transportation and logistics. That is part of my responsibilities. We do contract our transportation still, and that is one of my responsibilities, is overseeing the contract with the transportation provider. I also oversee all construction projects, building maintenance, grounds maintenance, and I'm just about to finish my 17th year here in the district. So I'm very fortunate to be here. Love my job, something new and different every day. I'm sure you can attest to that. That's what makes it fun. Maybe
Absolutely.
talking about transportation one minute and a toilet the next, you just never know. So one thing you're not going to see on LinkedIn for me, I'm an avid golfer. I love to play golf, and at my age, and that's about all I can do anymore. I was an athlete, all my life through high school and college, but at this point in my life, that's about it. Love the Lake of the Ozarks. We have a lake house down there that actually my dad and I built back in
Okay.
the 70s and early 80s. And now it's my family, so we spend a lot of time down there.
That's
But,
fantastic. I love that area. When you talked about your interview with 3 panel interviews, I don't think people that haven't interviewed for this level of job at a school district understand how school districts interview, because
mhm.
in the private sector, you just go in, meet with somebody. Typically, that's it. They offer you the job or they don't. But man, in school districts, I had the same thing. I had like I was in one day, but like it was an interview with 10 people.
Hmm.
They went around the table asking questions. And then I left that and went and met with the superintendent and the two assistant superintendents for another interview. Um, Way more stressful than
Yes, it
anything
is.
I'd ever seen in the private sector.
It is.
It's pretty funny. Well, Jim, I heard you on Joshua Peach's podcast, and you mentioned in there that one of your focuses through the years has been preventative maintenance. And I thought, man, what a great way, because that's like on one of my goals this year is starting to improve our PM program in my district. And so it's kind of one of the reasons I started the podcast is I wanted to learn from everybody else. So um, invited you on, and I kind of just want to dive into PM and kind of how you started, what you were thinking, and then just kind of go through. We'll just keep talking.
Sure,
So
sure.
like how did you decide to like kind of have that as a focus, and how did those early conversations go, and like who did you talk to about it?
Well, as I said, my background was not maintenance or equipment or MEP of any kind, really. Kind of learning as I went. I mean, I had some basic knowledge, but that's no more than anybody else probably. And when I first took the position, which was a long time ago, I quickly learned that from a facility maintenance and equipment maintenance standpoint, you get more bang for your buck in preventive maintenance and which just elongates the life of all your equipment. We chose to focus first on our HVAC equipment. It's kind of easy when you're talking about preventive maintenance and HVAC. And there's, many different things that you can do more than just changing filters, which we do, obviously that, but other things. So when we signed up for the system, the maintenance software that we were using at the time, that was what we chose to start with. It's a huge task to get started. There's a lot of information that has to be entered and a lot of things that need to be put in the system manually. It's hard to do it automatically.
Right.
Some people claim that they can do that, but even if you do that, you still have to go through it back manually to it. So that's what we started on and then grew from there. I mean, we've got everything from our HVAC equipment to we have a fleet of 55 white vehicles. We have all of them in there as well for oil changes. And I require them to wash their truck once a month and clean it out and that kind of stuff. I mean, you can drill down as much as you can. The goal, the software that we were using at the time, what they claimed was that if you have around 30% of your total work orders as preventive maintenance work orders, you're doing a pretty good job. And I just looked here, well, when I was on with Josh, and we were around 40 to 41% PMs to work orders. So, I mean, it's kind of anecdotal information, if you will, but I would say that the percentage is higher because we have focused on preventive maintenance, which reduces our work orders.
Right.
So automatically the percentage is going to be a little higher. I mean, again, it's anecdotal information, and because it's hard to quantify, what exactly what kind of dollar savings and that kind of thing. But we've had very few breakdowns on HVAC equipment or anything else that we do heavy PMs on. So I
Right.
feel like
So
it's been a success, and we will continue to move that direction.
yeah. Does your software spit out that calculation for you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it does. Yeah.
Okay. So did you have to get any buy-in from anybody else, finance or anybody else, or was it just, hey, we're going to start doing this. We don't need any more money. We don't need any other support, or
That's a good question. Again, going way back and you're testing my memory. That's dangerous for me anyway. Um, I had support. Yes, I presented it to them and what we were going to do as far as moving into PM because, I mean, it was one thing to get the software. That was kind of a
right,
no-brainer because we had no software at the time. So we
right,
were all on email and paper and that kind of thing, which is That was kind of ridiculous back in those days, but so I had the support to get the software, one, but then when I started having conversations with my boss, who's the assistant superintendent, and our HR folks about what it was going to take, to get to a PM, or to get to a more of a PM model than just a reactive. I had their support as well. So we're going to have to add people where here's the things we're going to have to do, and presented all that to them, and presented the ROI. I mean, our equipment's going to last longer, and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So they saw that. Again, I've been very fortunate in the district that I work in that I have that support, both financially and just mentally, I guess,
Right.
from them. They see my vision as well, and they understand it, and I haven't had to go jump through too many hoops
Yeah.
to get them to understand what we're all about.
So what were your techs? Because I'm fortunate, like I have two people that are just assigned to do PM
Mhm.
activities. But what were the techs? What was their initial reaction?
Well, coincidentally, about that time, I was really lucky to hire a guy that had been in commercial HVAC for 20 some years. And I didn't have to explain it to him. He knew
Yeah.
that was the way to go. And I worked with him very closely to set up the PMs and what we needed to do, and the frequency and all of that. And he worked with his team, his techs, to show them exactly what they needed to do. So it was pretty easy from an HVAC standpoint. It was pretty easy, to make that transition with his help, because he had all the knowledge. Again, I'm not an HVAC expert. He was, so he's
Right.
the one that kind of drove the bus on that, and instilled in his team the importance of it. And I also had him talk to the folks that I mentioned earlier, the assistant superintendent and the HR folks, to explain the importance. In fact, he took the assistant superintendent on the roof with him and showed him how to do maintenance on one of the pieces of equipment. So
That's
that
awesome.
helped. Yeah.
Well, I think, I mean, we have checklists and stuff, but I think I want to just, in my district, just elevate that, and start tracking that as a metric. And so, like, I just went on YouTube and I looked, like I said, PM a rooftop unit.
Mhm.
And there's like a million videos of guys filming themselves, and they're all pretty similar. But do you know off the top of your head, like, what do you guys typically do, like on a rooftop unit?
Oh boy, no, not really. I mean,
Yeah.
you can try to fake it if you will. I mean, obviously changing filters, checking the
Right.
belts, greasing bearings. We do during the summer, we do hire a couple college kids to all they do all summer is power wash coils.
Okay.
So we've got over 1,000 pieces of equipment, and we've been lucky to have. I mean, they're not going to stay more than 3 or 4 years while they're in college, but they usually come back year after year after year because they're getting paid pretty well. I mean, that's
Right.
a pretty good job for a college kid in the summer. Of course, you're standing on a 120-degree roof all summer too, but other than that, just I don't. Again, I'm not an
Yeah.
expert, but I know that's the basics
Right.
of the PM.
Yeah, that's what I saw, like tightening nuts that hold wires,
Hmm.
maybe changing the start capacitor, maybe checking amperages at
Right.
startup of the
Yep.
motors and
Exactly.
that kind
Yep.
of thing. You guys have
Yeah.
cottonwood? Oh, go ahead.
And each manufacturer is going to give you, what their recommendations are for
Right.
PMing those pieces of
Right.
equipment. Yeah.
So do you guys have cottonwood trees up there?
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah. We have a building that we have to clean in a certain time of the year, we have to clean the coils about every 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not kidding you. Like, they are loaded with cottonwood. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
So did you just start with one unit and say, okay, let's figure out what this unit needs, and built the system, and then went to the next unit and built the system? And
Yeah. The first thing we did was just create the equipment list. I mean, we didn't have that on paper anywhere. So
right.
again, I worked with my lead HVAC guy and just an Excel spreadsheet basically. And then I had one of my administrative assistants take that information and roll it into the software system we were using at the time to create that equipment list. And then once you have that, it's pretty easy to set up the PMs, and you pick, what type of equipment that you want to PM, and then you list what you want to do on that PM in that work order, and it just and then choose your frequency, how often you want to do it, and that kind of thing. For us, it's twice a year. I know a lot of people recommend, and we wish we could do more than twice a year, but we just don't have the people. I mean, it takes us to change filters and do the basic PM, like I said, change filter, check belts, grease bearings, that kind of thing. It takes us about almost 3 months to do it.
Right.
We have 4 guys on our HVAC team. So
Have you
I
had to
keep that
build in any
different.
accountability to make sure that, when they check it off, it's actually been done? Or is your team just like solid and gets it done?
Well, both. They are solid, but that's the responsibility of my lead HVAC tech. He spot checks, and he's
Yeah,
out there too, involved and watching
right.
them, what they're doing, that kind of thing. But yeah, I, again, I'm pretty fortunate where I'm at. We have a really good team.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Well, that's fantastic. So have you rolled it out to any, so you did, I think you said you're doing your white fleet, like your white trucks and vehicles and
Yeah, we're doing that. I mean, really everything. I mean, plumbing, electrical, and off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to name everything that we do for
right,
all of those different trades and pieces of equipment. But uh, even our custodians, we've assigned them as technicians, and every district's a little different from a custodial standpoint. Our custodians really don't do any work other than custodial,
right,
except the only thing they would do would be they can change a ceiling tile or change bulbs if we still have some fluorescence throughout the district. That
right,
we're slowly working on that, but they will get PMs on checking their exit lights. Are they working? Or they're checking they have a one for checking ceiling tile, and it's just a visual inspection, but they check it off. And then when the custodial manager or supervisor does run checks and that kind of thing, if they see something like that, then they know that person, didn't do what they were supposed to do.
right, right.
Plumbing standpoint, I mean, they check, water fountains, go in all the restrooms, make sure everything's functioning properly, that kind of thing. And again, I'm fortunate to have a couple of good plumbers, and they do that anyway, even without the PMs being generated. They're in their buildings all day, every day, walking through and just checking things out. So
Right. So what's the frequency on some of those custodial PMs? Like monthly?
monthly, most of those are monthly. There may be a few that are less frequent than that, I guess. I don't know off the top of my head what those
Yeah,
might be, but we've even rolled it out to our grounds crew for mowing. We want them to capture when they're mowing, how long it takes them to mow, that kind of thing. Um, um, Playground inspections. We have, I don't know how many, 6 or 7 certified playground inspectors
okay,
now on our grounds crew, and that's part of their responsibility at each of our elementaries, is to check those weekly for safety,
right,
rake and mulch and that kind of stuff.
right.
So a little bit of everything.
No, it sounds like you've grown it out a lot, and you gave me some new things to think about that, because I think we have expectations like make sure you check this every month, but it's not
Mhm.
a work order that comes out that they have
Yeah,
to check off.
right.
Um,
And
so I
but
think
that's exactly it, Burke, that, anything you can think of that's a regular, put it in a PM. I mean, there's
yeah,
no reason not to. I mean, it captures that work, and when you need to go talk to your HR folks or whoever about needing a new person, you can pull up that information pretty readily and say, we're spending X number of hours every week or every month doing this. And
right.
we just don't have enough hours in the day to do that, plus take care of all the reactive work orders we have. So,
Yep. No, it's fascinating. I mean, you mentioned ceiling tiles. Like my team has learned that that is one of my big pet peeves. If there's a stain on a ceiling tile
me
and we
too.
fix the problem, replace
Yep.
the ceiling tile.
Yeah. One,
Yeah.
one, one of mine is street signs.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on, yeah, I can see it leaning. Can't you see it leaning? All you gotta do is straighten it up. It really doesn't take that long to do that.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
Well, I think, yeah, you've given me a lot of things to think about on how we can expand ours out even more and start capturing and tracking that it was actually done. Like historically, our city fire department has done our annual fire inspections.
Mhm.
And I don't know, they've had some change or something, so they turned it back over to the state. And I'm talking like this has been
Mhm.
for years, the local fire department. And so, with our relationship with them, we just kind of took care of things as they came up and when they walked around. But this year we had a state fire marshal. Well, I don't know, the expectations were a lot different. And so one of the things that that I have done this as a PM is making sure that every fire door, when it's released, latches
Mhm.
because we had so many doors that would not latch when they swung shut. And I don't know, I think we spent like $15,000. Some places need a new door. I mean, it was just crazy. So I'm like, okay, this isn't happening again. Like we're gonna PM this on a schedule so that when the fire marshal shows up, all of our doors will latch. So yeah, it's little things like that that you don't want to have repeated that would be excellent to put on a PM system so
Yep.
that somebody's tasked with looking at it.
Yeah.
So um I wonder how high, I wonder how high you can go. I mean, I know it's anecdotal, but I wonder, is there a district that has 60% of
Yeah.
PM, you know?
Well, going back to the old system, the old software system we were using, you could look at other districts and that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
The new one doesn't do that as well. Um, but it was interesting to look at that kind of thing, how you compare to your counterparts across the country. Um, but as long as I mean, I guess depends on how competitive you are. As long as you're making some strides and making some gains in your PMs and again extending the life of your equipment and that kind of thing. That's the goal.
It really is because if you can reduce those times when it's 95 degrees outside and the air conditioner breaks, which is a direct impact on the ability of the staff to teach and our students to learn,
Mhm.
um, that goes a long ways.
Yeah,
That's what we're here to do is to support that environment. So if we can eliminate those breakdowns or reduce those breakdowns, um, we've fulfilled that mission. So
yeah. It's interesting you said that. So we're getting ready to go, or we're just finishing up our new CSIP, our comprehensive school improvement plan for the next 5 years. That's the state requires us to do that in Missouri anyway. And one thing that was added this year over past years is one, what are you going to do with your aging facilities? Because we're at the point now where we've had a lot of good steady growth and we've built 5 new buildings in the last 3 years. We've got one more new building coming up in our next bond. But what are you going to do now going back and taking care of your aging facilities? But the other part of that is the direct question in the CSIP from a facility standpoint is what can you do to make sure that I forget how it's worded, that the learning day is not disrupted.
that's
Well,
fascinating.
everything we do is so we don't disrupt the day of learning, so
Right.
that's kind of what metrics can we measure. That's what we're looking at now, that directly affects that point in the CSIP. So
Yeah, that would be interesting to track. Um, how many buildings do you guys have total, like schools?
well, schools 22, have 26 total buildings that we're maintaining. I count when people ask that question, I always grin because we have a press box with concession stands. That's a building that I have to
Oh,
maintain. We have an old house that we own that we have a clothes closet in is what we call it. We have to maintain that.
uh-huh.
Well, I count all those buildings too. Plus,
I
you
do
know,
the same.
yeah.
I do the same thing. Yeah, absolutely. So we have here we have 12 schools and I think like 18 buildings total.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. We have right at 2 million square feet under roof.
okay. Yeah. Well, so how often do you track that metric? Is that just something you look like every once in a while or when you give your annual operations report to the board or?
Well, we're just now developing that. So we haven't, we're trying to figure out exactly what are we going to measure that affects that metric? You know what I mean?
Right.
And what I've measured in the past, in the past we've done it's called a program evaluation plan or program, sorry. And what I've measured, the three things that I've measured are percent of PMs to reactive work orders,
Right.
on time completion of work orders, and we send a survey to 25% of our work orders that are completed. So the way our system is set up is that anybody in the district, anybody that has a district email address can enter a work order. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason I did it that way is now all the communication, anytime the status is changed of that work order, that person gets an email, say it's been approved or it's been completed or whatever, and tells what we did. Because a lot of times we won't even see if a teacher enters a work order, we're going before school or after school or whatever, and they won't even see
Right.
us. So I want them to have that communication. We have about 10,000 work orders a year, actually more than that, about 11 to 12. And I didn't want to send out 10,000 surveys, so we just do 25% of the folks. So to get their customer satisfaction, it's a simple 4 or 5 question survey. And so we measure the customer satisfaction, the percent of PM work orders, and the on-time completion. And on-time completion is within 5 days.
Okay. So have you always allowed everybody in your district to enter work orders?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's something here, like we're not operating that way. So the head custodians, the school secretary and principals can enter work orders.
Mhm.
But I'm struggling with it because of that communication aspect.
Right.
Um, and the person who's got a hot room never gets any communication that anything's that we've been there, that we fixed it, that we're waiting on parts, unless they ask the school secretary or
Right.
head custodian. The fear, I think, in my mind, especially from our staff's mind, is if we open this up to everybody, like we're going to get flooded. But it does. The people I've talked to, that doesn't seem to be the way it works.
No, it's not. And my first reaction to what you just said is good. I want to be flooded because
Right.
guess what? In our district, we have 2,000 employees. That's 2,000 sets of eyes out there that I can't be in every building every day. My
Yeah.
technicians can't be in every building every day. You're in
Right.
that classroom every single day. And this is what I've tried to drill into our custodians' minds, that especially the night custodians that are cleaning every single room. You guys are in every square inch of that building every single day. If you see something wrong, I want to know about it
Right.
and tell us about it so we can fix it. But the same thing with the teachers. We still struggle with the teachers. They just feel like I don't have time to mess with that. And they'll call the secretary, and the secretary is it. And I've tried to, over the years, I've tried to stop that just for that communication reason. But some principals say, no, I want my secretary doing it. But everybody has the option if they want to do
Right.
it.
Right. Well, I like it to close the feedback loop because
Mhm.
half the time we're in their classroom and they're, early in the morning and they don't even see us and
Yep.
they don't know then what happened. And especially, if we have to order parts, you know how it is. Like some of these parts are like a month out or something.
Right.
And, we make it work a little bit and then wait for the part to come in to fix it. So I think if we could close that loop, it would be better. But, well, man, you've given me a lot to think about. Anything else you want to share about what we've talked about?
Mm, no. I mean, I think, just to reemphasize the importance of the PMs. I mean, we've said that over and over again, and
Right.
And that is definitely the way to go. The proof is in the pudding for me. Going back before we emphasized that so much, it was like we were chasing our tail all the time.
Right.
And now we're in I just did a board item today for next week that, to replace HVAC equipment. Now that HVAC equipment we're replacing is not failing. It's just reached its age that we don't want it to fail. We're going to go ahead and replace it, if you're a district that is struggling for funding and especially capital funds to do that kind of stuff. If you have a system, PM system in place and a work order system in place and track that stuff the way you can in those systems, it's pretty easy to say we've spent X number of hours and X number of dollars on this piece of equipment. It's not going to last. It's going to fail. So do you want to replace it or wait till it fails? And then it's going to be 16 weeks before you get a new one.
Yes.
That's the way it is. So again, I'm fortunate enough. I at this point, I'm not having to sell that as much as some folks. And again, I've said it many times, I'm very fortunate in the district that I work in, and they're very supportive of what we do. So,
yeah, well, that's fantastic. Well, man, thanks so much for spending your time with me. So I end every episode with 3 questions, same 3 questions for everybody. So how would your family describe what you do for a living?
Well, my grandkids have no idea. The oldest one's 6. But my kids, again, they grew up in this district, so they know pretty much exactly what I do. They know that I take care of Park Hill facilities and grounds.
Yeah. Fantastic. So next question is, for like planning purposes, do you use like a digital planner, like an iPad or something, or take notes on all that, or are you paper?
No, I'm digital.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. I'm mostly digital. I still carry a portfolio around with me just to jot notes down in case something comes up, and instead of pulling my phone out and doing that. But mostly digital.
Yeah. I'm pretty much digital now. I got an app that works on my MacBook, my iPad, and my phone,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to dump everything in there or I forget. So, um, so last question is, when do you get your best work done? Like what time of the day?
Oh, first thing in the morning. Yeah, I'm here by usually 6:45, 7 o'clock every morning. Yeah, in that first hour, 2 hours, I can knock out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
By the time the afternoon comes around, I'm about beat. So
We've been knocked around all day from 20 different things.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty much the same way. Sometimes that end of day, once kids leave the buildings and
Mm-hmm.
staff, that last from like 3:30 to 5 is really quiet, and I can get a lot of thinking and work done in there sometimes. So
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Most of my guys work 6 to 2:30.
yeah,
So once they leave at 2:30, after that time, it quiets down and the buses are rolling and that kind of stuff. So that's more of a quiet time too. So
yeah,
I would agree with that.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. If anybody has any other questions, what's the best way to kind of reach out to you?
My contact information is on the website,
Okay,
or um, you know, 359-4100.
there you go.
816 area code. You can feel
All right.
free. And I can give you, I don't know if you can post contact information on the podcast or whatever. I can give that to you as well. You have it. So
Yeah.
put that
Okay.
up. That's fine.
Okay. That'd be great.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much, Jim. I really appreciate it. And I hope to see you sometime at a conference. I'm going to jump one state over and hit some of your guys' Missouri. Um,
Oh, good. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. We have,
Facility.
we have some good meetings over here. So, and
Yeah.
I'm not that too far from you. If you want to come up and visit and see this again, I've repeated, I'm very fortunate. We have a new facility here where I'm sitting, a support services facility that I'd be happy to show you around and we can talk more. So,
That'd be
come
awesome.
on
Well,
up.
my mother-in-law lives in Olathe, so it's not far
Yeah.
from where you are.
Yeah.
So sounds good. Well, thank you so much and have a great week.
You bet. Thank you, Bert.